In October 2013, I reviewed the LG G2 and I was extremely impressed. I concluded the review with, "There is little to find fault with. I mean this truthfully. Yes, there are a few small annoyances, but none are perfect. The G2 is very close though. At no point have I felt the urge to go back to my S4. I would quite honestly have no trouble switching to the G2 as a primary device." 6 months on, and LG have brought the G2 Mini to market. It is smaller and a little less feature-rich, but does it have what it takes to stand out? Trying not to compare the Mini to the original G2 will be difficult, but it needs to be judged on its own merits. Unlike Sony, the G2 Mini makes more sacrifices on the specifications than many would like, but this has a knock-on effect for the weight and the price, which could be a positive. Headline features include 4.7-inch touchscreen, Google Android 4.4 operating system, 8-megapixel rear camera, microSD memory card slot, 8GB of internal memory, quad-core processor clocked at 1.2 GHz. The G2 Mini has tough competition: Sony's Z1 Compact, the HTC One Mini and Samsung's S4 Mini. Without getting bogged down in the specs, as they are all fairly similar, the Z1 Compact takes the crown. The G2 has the largest display and manages to get it in a form factor no bigger than the Compact. The resolution, onboard RAM and lack of IP rating let it down. The G2 really should have more than 1GB of RAM, as the older S4 Mini has 1.5GB. It does boast a 2,440 mAh battery, but does that make up for the more plastic feel compared to the Sony and HTC? If you're in the market for a mini version of the premium devices, any of them have a lot to offer, but truthfully I feel the G2's toughest rival is the Compact. Should the rumoured S5 Mini come to fruition, it will likely be a very different story. It goes without saying the Mini shares some of the design cues from the original G2. To the untrained eye, you would not necessarily be able to tell the differences, but they are there. There is an apparent bezel on all four sides of the screen, but what is quite remarkable is how the overall dimensions of the handset are almost identical to the Z1 Compact from Sony. In fact, it actually felt smaller in the hand to hold. The back is home to the rear-mounted power and volume buttons. LG introduced these on the G2 and they take some time getting used to. But they do work and certainly make for easier in-call volume control than most other handsets. The back cover is removable, unlike the G2. This means that under the back cover is the battery compartment that houses the user removable battery. The original G2 had fixed internal storage of 16GB. The Mini has only 8, but there is a microSD slot to expand this further, so you can essentially have more memory in the Mini. The plastic back cover has a mesh design which gives a more premium look and feel, but can't quite compete with the Z1 Compact and HTC. It pains me a little to say that the screen here is below the standard I would expect. By no means is it bad, it is quite acceptable, but in the age of HD displays, the Mini is a bit weak. The S4 Mini has the same resolution, and that's been on the market for a year. The resolution is just 540 by 960, giving a PPI of 234. The Z1 Compact and the One Mini have a 1280 by 720 resolution display with a PPI of 342 and 341 respectively, which is quite a difference. This disparity is then made greater when you consider the G2 Mini has a 4.7-inch display compared to the 4.3-inch of the others. Truthfully, the screen is still pretty good on the G2 Mini. A lower resolution IPS panel means lower power draw and good viewing angles, but put it next to the Z1 Compact and you'll notice the difference. The jury is out on what the best user interface is for a smartphone. Some prefer the stock Android, some like the moderately customized Sony interfaces, whilst others may like the much heavier Samsung TouchWiz. It is inevitably going to be personal opinion. LG's interface sides on the heavier installs, and out of the box, of the 8GB internal memory, just shy of 4 is available. By the time I had installed all of my apps, I was down to 1.5GB. Like the G2, the Mini includes many of the value-added features. The kind of features I'm talking about include being able to schedule a text message and change the software button layout. One option I particularly like is the ability to orient the home screens into landscape mode. LG have put together a solid all-round offering. There is a lot for even an experienced user to customize on this handset. One option that is not present is the control of a notification light. There isn't one. Some of the Mini's key software features are Knock On, a clever feature that with 2 taps on the screen can turn it on and off. Knock Code, a new and innovative way of securing the device. The display is split into 4 quarters in which a series of 2 to 8 taps are recorded in one or more of the quarters. When the screen is off and secured with a knock code, you then make the relevant taps in the same formation as it was recorded, but there's no need to use the full screen to input the code. Guest mode, essentially creating another user account that anyone can access without getting into your content. You can control what the guest can access. Ideal for the kids to stop them doing anything they shouldn't. Capture Plus is a great feature if you need it. It allows you to take an image of the whole web page rather than the portion that may be displayed on screen. It can be cropped accordingly. Clip Tray stores multiple items you've copied to the clipboard ready for use later in other apps. A similar experience to using a traditional desktop computer. Smart Video. Look away from the display when watching a video clip, and it is paused until your eyes return. It's quite handy if you get distracted and didn't want to miss parts of the video. Q Slide allows you to have an open window on top of what you're doing in the background. It worked well, and I like the ability to easily resize the window and change the opacity. I found this particularly useful when I was killing time or relaxing. Other features less publicised include a file manager, FM radio, LG backup, quick memo, quick remote and LG Smart World. From the original G2, there are vast differences in the software. Some of the less required features have gone. See our full written review on blog.clove.co.uk to find out what these are. Of course, we cannot forget at the heart of this, the G2 is an Android-powered handset with all the normal Google services. Download your favourite apps, navigate from A to B, or stream music from Google Play. It's all here. It should be noted that LG have gone to considerable lengths to allow you to personalise the software on the device, and neat tricks include being able to change the wallpaper in the app tray and the size of the app icons, amongst many more. USB hosting and video out are not supported on the G2 Mini, but everything else is there. Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, NFC, GPS, 3G and 4G are all present. Surprisingly good would be my response if you asked me about the audio on the G2 Mini. The HTC One M8 will beat it for overall quality, and the One Mini will give it a tough time too. But this is no surprise, as HTC's boom sound speakers are setting the standard. The G2 has pretty good clarity, a little stretched at times, but still hits the mid-80s on the decibel meter. As with the original G2, the location of the speakers don't give the best opportunity to win us over. Squeezing them into the front may have been a benefit, but affected the overall dimensions and aesthetics. With an 8-megapixel camera, it is pretty much bang on the mark for a device of this type. The Z1 Compact is a bit of an anomaly with its 20.7-megapixel shooter, but it's not perfect, so the G2 Mini need not be left behind. There are a couple of key features: pause and resume recording. Simply put, as you record video, you can pause it and then resume it again. Fast snapshot, a long press on the volume down button gives you quick access to the camera even when the screen is locked. Multi-point AF gives you up to 9 focus points in one shot. Regretfully, the results are mixed, and I could not say why. In most instances, the shots were okay and acceptable, but in quite a few, what I thought would come out as a good shot was actually disappointing. Overall, most images had a darker tone and colour balance to them than was the case at the time of capture. I took some images on a rainy and overcast day, so the light wasn't the best, but very common of an everyday scenario. The results were that the light colours often looked blown out against the darker backgrounds. Other results that appeared to look okay on screen were at times disappointing when reviewing back on the computer. The lighting and focus seemed a bit off, and some had a definite noise on the image, even in relatively good lighting. This was most noticeable indoors. Some of this could be resolved through software updates. The camera app is well equipped, offering various shooting modes and control over the shot. There is a reasonable scope for the novice and more advanced photographer. The app is not too heavy with features, but rich enough to give you most of what you need for both stills and video. It would have been nice to see a few more editing features for a bit of fun and creativity. The Z1 Compact is known for packing a punch with battery life, and the G2 Mini has not done bad in the time we've had it either. From a full charge, it was up for 10 hours with 25% remaining in a relatively intense day's use. For average to light users, 1.5 to 2 days is possible, but it might be a bit of a stretch. Battery saver mode may be helpful, but it's not as good or as powerful as stamina mode. It does not offer quite such advanced power management controls. I think you'll generally be impressed with the performance here. It's done better than I expected, but lives up to the standards it needs to. Naturally, nobody wants to pay more than they would have to in order to get what they want, but at some point there needs to be consideration for this. The G2 Mini comes in at what I believe to be a fairly justifiable price for the features that it offers. £250 including VAT at the time of launch and recording. However, there is no denying that the likes of the Motorola Moto G that comes in somewhere around £80 less has a lot to offer and may be a viable alternative. But my feeling is what it makes up for in price, it may lack in advanced software and user experience tweaks that over the life of ownership could easily warrant the additional initial spend. As the owner of a Z1 Compact, I'm well aware of just how powerful the handset is. I'm also apparently aware of its downfalls. Its size, considering the smaller screen, is one and weight is another. But there is a solid and more premium feel. It will always be about finding what is right for you. Over the time I've been using the G2 Mini, I've had a generally positive user experience. There's a lot to like about it. It has not won me over like the original G2 did, but it's not far off the mark, reigniting the spark I have for LG products. My concerns about the slightly slower processor and RAM did not really present itself as an issue during my time with it. I can't help but really like the G2 Mini. I will genuinely be sad to hand it back. It feels the underdog in a race of the big brands, but an underdog that deserves its 5 minutes of fame because it has so much to offer and is a genuine candidate for your next phone. It just doesn't get the attention of the more desired alternatives.